Hi guys to everyone. I'm Mada from Poison Rock, and today we have the honor to have with us Wiley, guitarist from Sacred Reich. First of all, it's a pleasure to have you with us. How are you, Wiley?
I'm doing good. It's great to catch up with you. I enjoyed getting your request last week and excited to
Yeah,
see you now.
yeah, it's really a pleasure and an honor having, and we can say one of the first band of the thrash metal area. So I want to
Oh,
start. I want to start, of course, with a common question, because of course everyone should ask you. Let's speak about how Sacred Reich born. So just the beginning, back in the 80s.
yeah. Well, I'm filming from Scottsdale, Arizona, and this is
Yeah.
where we all went to high school, just about 4 blocks away from here. And I was aware of the band. They're all friends of mine. I didn't play with them. It was about 1985. And they started to do heavier music. They were doing
Yep.
covers of Metallica, SOD, really heavy stuff, which was unique in our crowd.
Yeah.
Um, and slowly, it's like there was a whole parade of band members going through. They slowly acquired Greg Hall, and then
Yeah.
Phil Rind came along. Uh, Jeff Martinick was the lead guitar player. When he left, it created an opportunity for me to join the band.
Yeah.
And that was probably 1986. So they
Fantastic.
already had a demo tape. We all went to the same high school. We were drawing Sacred Reich on our notebooks and dreaming about being in a rock band. And
Yes, you basically were all mates together in the high school.
yeah, we grew up together.
Yeah,
And
that's amazing.
even Paul Stotler, who's our
Yeah.
artist, was part of that same group going to school. And while we were learning to play our instruments, he was learning his art. And by the
That's,
time we did our first record, he did the record cover. Pretty
yeah.
fun.
Speaking about the first record, because the first record came out in '87. It's Ignorance. What about this first record? Because of course, I know there was a demo tape being released some years in '86 and or '85. So of course, you know that from the demo to the album, of course, there is like we can say like a jump of quality, if I'm not
Sure.
wrong. So what about the topic? I mean, you came out with Ignorance, and what about this first debut? How it was back then? How the people reacted to the first album, and especially the
You know,
topic behind all of the first album.
it was a great reaction, and like you said, we had a demo tape called "Draining You of Life,"
Yeah.
and that had Greg, Paul, Jason Rainey, Jeff
Mm,
Martinick on lead guitar, and then Phil was playing bass and singing. And then when Jeff Martinick took off, we were getting an opportunity from Metal Blade to be on Metal
yeah.
Massacre 8, which is a compilation record they do each year. And I think that was 86, I'm guessing. I had just joined the band, so we went into the studio. We re-recorded the song Sacred Reich, which already existed. And then we also
Okay.
recorded Ignorance, which was the first song with me in the band. And we gave both of them to Metal Blade, and it was cool. They went with Ignorance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got a positive response from that one track on Metal Massacre 8. And I believe that created the opportunity for them to extend us a record deal, which ended up being our first record, Ignorance, which
Ignorance.
had
Yeah.
probably 4 or 5 songs from the demo tape.
Demo
So,
tape.
everything we've been sitting on from high school all came
Yeah.
out in the first record, which you can really hear our influences, a lot of Slayer influence and, faster Metallica stuff.
Yeah. So in that period, there was like all these we can say the classic thrash metal sound, the earlier. So how was the scene back then? Because when you were with the first album, there was band like, of course, Exodus. We can say all the thrash Bay Area, even from the Teutonic German thrash metal. I was back then, and you find some different from the thrash, we can say new wave thrash era of today.
Yeah, it's been fun over the years. We look back and they call us the second wave
The second
of
wave,
American. Yeah, the second wave.
the
So
second
like
wave.
you said, there was Exodus,
Yeah,
Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth,
yeah, yeah,
SOD. These guys were the first
yeah,
wave. So I think that appropriately you can hear our influence from the first wave,
yeah,
and then we were just having a blast. It was more aggressive music than I had been listening to, and it was a lot of fun getting into the genre. I was listening to Dokken, Judas
wow.
Priest, Scorpions, Rat. I thought Warren DeMartini was amazing. Dokken because of George Lynch. I'm a guitar player, so I was
Yeah,
really attracted to the guitar work. Obviously Van Halen and all the work, but Randy Rhoads and Ozzy.
Hard rock,
So,
classic,
so my head was kind of there. And then when the Sacred Reich opportunity came up, I was like, I don't know if I want to play that stuff. And Phil turned me on to a Testament record. And when I heard Alex playing, I was like, oh, wow, there is room in this genre, for some great soloing opportunities. So I look back and I'm just really thankful how things worked out, including Jeff Martnick going to the Navy, because otherwise he would be sitting with you today.
Yeah, because since you were in the scene, but basically you are the pioneer of the thrash metal. Because if you ask to the people, to the fans, especially to the thrashers, Sacred Reich are like we can say a column in the thrash genre. So I'd feel to be considered one of the biggest band in the thrash scene.
Yeah, it's cool. We've heard some friends, toy around that we're in the underground Big Four, which I don't know, maybe there's some bragging rights, because it was never about commercial success. When I look back at those days, it was kids just playing their hearts out, playing what we wanted to play, and hoping somebody would like it. But we spent zero time trying to imagine what people expected of us, and just showed up and played the things that came to us. And it was a great start into the music scene. And the thrashing has always been so accepting. It's crazy. You can have a really diverse group of bands playing in the same night, and the metalheads really accept everybody equally. I like that early on.
Yes. After Ignorance, you can the second, third album, Independent Heel, that basically came out when we can say new music genre was popping out, like grunge music. The grunge music has sort of an impact on your sound or on your career, or it was just like another genre going by its own?
Yeah, our second record was Surf Nicaragua, which was an EP. Yeah. And I think that was 88. And I think by 90, the grunge was starting to set in. So we did Surf Nicaragua, then we did the American Way record. Yeah. And then it seemed like that Seattle sound started hitting. And it did not have a big impact on our songwriting, but it did have a big impact on how people bought records and went to concerts. So it was a tough time as metal seemed to be fading a little bit. Yeah. Like we were noticing a steady growth every time we would tour or release something. We had seen an improvement in sales or in attendance, and it felt like we were heading someplace. And then in the early '90s, it felt a little bit of a decline, where that Seattle grunge thing started to really be the mainstream. Yeah. And it really was great music, but I guess it just didn't want to share fans. Yeah. Or maybe people had limited money. They couldn't afford all the concerts, all the records, and all the shirts. So they went with the big thing.
Yes, you earlier mentioned South Nicaragua. This is one, like I say, an hymn for Sacred Reich, one of the most famous songs, like everyone play. We have still a friend here that play the cover of South Nicaragua. It's I don't know what makes special this song. What's the whole story behind these songs?
Well, it was about what was going on in El Salvador and Managua, and we had a presence there with the military, and it was like this idea that we were force feeding diplomacy. Yeah. And we've always been a little bit politically edgy. We hate the idea of young people being shipped off to war. Yeah. And oftentimes, it doesn't seem like the value of the war equals the value of the lost lives. So it was kind of a sarcastic take on what was going on in Managua and in Nicaragua around the time. Yeah. So that's kind of what the song's about. Interesting thing about that song, I remember when Phil showing us the parts, it was brand new. And then we got to the wipeout break. And I looked at him like, is this a joke? And I was super against it. I'm like, we can't just stop in the middle of this crazy metal song and start doing that. He's like, dude, trust me, let's just do it. And I look back at that argument, and I'm so glad I listened to him. I think I was being too metal. I was like, we gotta be metal. And he was like, no, then right here we go into the wipeout break. Yeah. And at first it was really hitting me wrong. And I look back at it, it's such an important and cool part of that song. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting note when I think back to those days.
Yes, and of course, speaking about the topic, because one thing that personally I found interesting in your lyrics is that you speak about really a concrete argument, like you can say about freedom. So I don't want to think. I don't want to say. So I want to ask to you the main topics that you speak in your lyrics, and which are many.
Yeah, well, Philip is the sole lyric writer, so he really
Okay.
speaks to these things a bit better. But I can tell you from being in the front row and sharing the
Yeah.
passion with him that you know we're really about people loving each other. And early on, it sounds more aggressive because we're angry that people aren't loving each other. So we're wanting to see a common
Hate and
respect.
love.
Yeah, we're like, love me or I'll beat your ass. It's kind of a crazy way of going about it. But I look back younger, we were more aggressive, we were more pissed off, and we felt like the system was geared up to make rich people rich and keep poor people waiting in line for cheese.
Yeah.
And we were frustrated with what we were seeing. We had friends go off to war. Some of them don't come back, so that leaves an impact with you. And then 10 years after the war, you learn what it was about, and you go, boy, that wasn't worth it. So there was, you know, this idea that we want America to be the vision that it's always talked about. It doesn't always live up to that. And, you know, it's more true now than ever. You know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I listen to the lyrics on the American Way song, or even Surf Nicaragua, and they're still the same. You know, history just keeps repeating itself.
Yeah.
And we just hope that, you know, somehow, maybe through social media, we can all start to share one more worldly perspective and understand we're all connected. And there's not room for the fighting.
Yeah, of course. Speaking about social media, it was different back then. I mean, spreading the music, and especially having a sort of relationship with with the band, with the fencing, with the management. It was different back in the 80s and the 90s. So it wasn't easy like now. Just you post a video and it's on. You upload the music and it's on. It was a little bit different. So how did you go through this? Because for being here after all this time, I mean, you find, in your opinion, it's way easier and better, or you prefer to be in the older way?
You know, we're creatures of habit, so sometimes I miss the old school way.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you know, there's an organic change, even when it includes digital media. It's part of the nature of things. So it's not really better or worse. It's just different. Looking back at our start, we were really lucky that Flotsam and Jetsam, a local band that had Jason Newsted, who would end up going to Metallica, they were like our big brother band. We shared a rehearsal space. We shared jam pad rent, the rent for the rehearsal space to keep the costs down. And then we'd have alternate schedules. So that we had them set up on one side of the room, and we were set up facing them. And then we just had rotating schedules. And we were coming in. Yeah, at those days, they were doing their Doomsday for the Deceiver record, and we would watch them rehearse. We were learning a lot from them. They were a couple years ahead of us, how to book a show, how to make a flyer, you know, a good way to get the word out. So we didn't have computers, so we would cut out words out of newspapers and build what we want. And then you would photocopy it, and then once you had one, that was the master. And then you'd make 100 of those. And then you would go to the club you're going to play the weekend before, and you would walk through the parking lot, and you would put the flyers on all the cars, because you know that these are people who come to where you're going to be. And it was a different sort of, you know, that's how we tagged people.
Yes, not now that you just like invite all your friends, or share. There was different way of sharing and adding people to some events.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
I remember it was a real big deal when Jason Newsted had accumulated or shared with us the college music phone numbers and addresses. It's for college music radio. And this was a big deal for underground metal, where we weren't expecting any mainstream radio stations to pick up and make us famous overnight. You know, we were underground. We were doing the harder stuff. So college radio was a great way to get your music into other cities besides where you live, when you really couldn't count on mainstream radio.
That's cool.
And that was something that he painstakingly did. He did research, he shared notes with friends, and slowly over a period of time, he ended up with a list where there was pretty much 2 or 3 people from every state. And that started us. We ended up a few years later, we would participate in the CMJ Festival in New York, which was the college music journal. And it was really cool going there and meeting the people that we had written letters and sent cassette tapes to them. And then they would play us on the air. And then when we would come to visit finally on a tour, we'd meet people like, "Oh, we heard you on the college radio." And it was, a very different way of getting the word out.
Yes, of course.
But a really cool experience, and a lot of those things are still true. It's just, we can use the benefit and the speed of digital, like the electronic press kit, but a clip of the video.
Yeah, but a certain way back in the days it was tough. So when you had your goal, when you reached your goal, it was maybe you had more satisfaction than today, because today it's easier sometimes. Especially for the new band. Back then, you have to really kick your ass for going to reach some goal you have.
Yeah. So, there was a music store that we all shopped at the local mall called the Music Room, Los Arcos Mall, and it was like the first moment where it kind of hit me that we were not talking about it anymore. We were doing it. Is when I went to buy our record and saw it under S in vinyl, because we've been making our own cassette tapes and we were getting pretty clever about printing and making them look nice, but we had no ability to make a record, and that was something you were going to need a record label and help distribution, and it was going to so coming to that point, I remember pulling up and saying, "Oh, we grew up to that," walking inside, going to the letter S, flipping through, pulling it out and going, "Oh my God, we have a real record at the record store." And that was, like, when I look back, one of the most exciting moments where you realize you're transitioning from wanting to do it to doing it.
Yes, and then you start to going on touring. That must be another amazing experience. There's some moments, some tour you had, could be some festival or just a gig, some good memories, could be funny, could be, I don't know, just some really good memories you have about some moments in touring.
Our first trip to Europe, we were with Motorhead and Destruction.
Could be.
God, there was another great band. I can't think of them right now. Who else was it? Our first show, something happened and Motorhead had flown in late. We were in Germany somewhere, and they decided that they wanted to go on earlier because they wanted to get back to the hotel and get some rest. They got screwed around with some flights. Their gear was some kind of chaos ensued, and we had to play last. And it was our first show. It was a venue that we played last.
Last.
Motorhead was headlining. They're supposed to play last, so everybody played. Motorhead plays. There's probably 4,000 or 5,000 people there. And then after Motorhead came off, like 90% of the people left. We'd never been there. We didn't have a big following. And it was such a scary, surreal like watching everybody play to this beautiful rock thing. Like, this is amazing. We're here doing this. We got the news that they would play before us, and we got nervous. Like, no one wants to follow Motorhead. If you want to look like a stupid band, go on right after Motorhead. So it was like, no pressure. But we went on and we played our asses off for the couple hundred people who stayed. And it was a mostly empty arena. And that was our first dive into our first show to European tour. It was pretty amazing. But that tour went on a couple of weeks, and we ended up making a lot of friends that we're still close with today, all the guys in Destruction. And it ended up being really great, but it was trial by fire.
Yeah, of course. It's like the first going touring the first time is not easy, especially with a big headlining, and then you play with after. Yeah, we had some experience here as well, something like that. But speaking about a little bit of your career, of course, music career, then you have, we can say, you just take a break. and you come back
I'm sorry.
in your career, you take like say a break. So you came back in 2006. How was it coming back after a lot, not a lot of years, some years back? And I read that you weren't so much, you can say so much. You wouldn't to release an album at the time when you were back. So what make you change? What make you change your idea? Because in 2019, then the last album was released. So what doesn't make change your idea about releasing an album?
Well, first we took the break, and then because the answer is kind of buried in a little bit earlier. We took the break, and then I think it was 2007 that we started playing. 2006, 2007, we started playing again. We did our first show in like 10 years in Scottsdale as a warm up, and we were going out to the Wacken Open Air Festival to play, and it was a lot of fun. I remember feeling a little bit silly, like, we're not relevant, you know, this is silly, what are we doing? It's like, oh, they're paying us good, it's a trip to Europe, it'll be nice. You know, we've become so removed, like our identities changed. We weren't those guys from that band. I had opened a restaurant, we raised kids, we were dads, you know, it was hard to look at ourselves that way. And we loved the idea, it sounded fun. We were in a position where we could say yes, and we did. So the process of getting together for the first time, playing through the songs was really a beautiful experience, kind of regelling as a team, learning the songs, remembering what we were up to, and then getting out on tour and feeling acceptance from the crowd was strange. You know, having them sing along, say, what do you guys want to hear? And Death Squad. You're like, oh my God, they remember us. You didn't expect it. We didn't realize we'd left, you know, the bit of an impact we did. So it was really a beautiful discovery going out and seeing a viable market. So this started a couple of years of us going into Europe around festival time. And then I don't know, the second or third trip, we're like, well, we should book some one-offs at clubs since we're here. So that was kind of a test drive and some touring outside of just novelty festival performances. And that went pretty good. And we sold some shirts, and we were remembering how much we love it, and started having a discussion. You know, it's like, I think I'm my best me when I'm playing guitar in a band, doing records and touring. So it was slowly over a period of a couple of years, getting our feet in, playing live, feeling the positivity and the support coming back, catching up with bands that we knew when we were all in our 20s, again, Destruction, Flotsam, the list goes on, Sepultura. Some of them never got away from it, and they're doing new records, and we're going out, we're doing the novelty set list, you know, Surf Nicaragua, The American Way, Who's to Blame, which is amazing that we were able to do that. But after a few years, it started to feel a little bit like, wait a minute, we've got friends that have done 2 records since we've been out here doing the novelty set. And I think that was part of it. Another big deal is the creativity woke up. I think some of that experience helped wake the creativity up. When we stopped, I think Phil said it best. He's like, I've been pulling from a well, and the well is dry. Well, keep an eye on it. If you know, if the water table changes, but you can't just create out of nowhere. You know, you need to be inspired to come up with stuff. You can't just sit down and make a beautiful painting. You got to be inspired. So, you know, there was a long time, and I think that that getting back touring, catching up with friends of ours that are our age, like we convinced ourselves, oh, our time is over. We'll come out as a novelty. We'll play the old songs from the 80s, and we'll get on. And the more we got around and watching people doing it, the more it felt appropriate and silly that we were being stubborn, you know. So part of it was a creative. We weren't feeling creative. And then the other part of it is probably we weren't feeling relevant. Like, who wants to give us a record deal? This is silly. You know, what are we talking about? We're dads and restaurant owners or whatever we're up to. And we had to learn to look at ourselves different. And then we're like, yeah, that's right. We're a band. I remember my daughter told me, someone asked me, she goes, so you're in a band? I go, not really. There's a band. I have an old band that I do some touring with. And she punched me in the arm. She's like, you've been at this for 4 years now. You're in a freaking band. I'm like, God, you're right. I think the answer to that question is, yeah, I'm in a band. So it's like this whole slow process of getting back into it. And, you know, these days I feel like, yeah, I'm Wiley from Sacred Reich. We got some plans. You know, we're excited for 2022. We had, like most of the world, a 2-year pause that was not planned. So
Yeah,
that's been tough on
for
everybody.
for whatever happened, yeah, of course.
We should be in Europe right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we should be there right now, but we had to postpone it. And seeing what's
uh
going on right now, it was a painful but probably good decision because a lot of venues aren't able to play. Some of the borders
yeah,
closed down with 24-hour notice, and it would have
yeah,
been tough and expensive for us to get caught out there with a bunch of downtime.
yeah. But I read that there is something going on on some festival in then next year, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah, we got lots of plans. So, we're
Yeah,
just trying to stay optimistic. Through the summer, there's quite a few of them.
yeah,
And then we got a Sepultura tour at the end of the year. And we've been putting off Australia, New Zealand, and Japan for 2 years now. We'd love to see that through. So hopefully this thing will start to loosen up with the pandemic, and we'll start to find better remedies,
yeah,
um, better ways to get people healthy
yeah,
when they do get it, and
of
less
course.
filling up the hospital.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
we're
course.
still we haven't figured it out yet, but we're
Yeah.
optimistic we'll figure it out.
And before going a little bit into the personal influences or the Sacred Reich influences, I wanted to ask you, because of course, always there are new teenagers that are looking for album to hear or bands to old bands. We can say we suppose, because most of the time now the new generation goes straight to the new bands and forget the roots. So if for the new guy, for the new generation, or that you can say the teenager that will look to this interview, which albums of Sacred Reich you want to advise to them, just to catch, you can say, the sound of the band?
I think American Way was
Yeah,
a great one. If you're interested in our past and where we come from, this was our third record, so
yeah,
we'd kind of burn up all of our ideas, all the Slayer influence.
yeah,
We'd burn up all the ideas and use everything we had, and we started to take influence from ourselves. We started to understand who we were. I think every record's great. It's
yeah,
like looking back at old pictures of yourself.
yeah,
Maybe there's
yes,
a picture when you're 14 and you're growing your hair out.
yeah,
It hits your shoulder and curls up. You hate the
yeah,
picture, but it was an accurate moment. That's what
yeah,
was going on. So
yeah,
so even though sometimes I'll listen back, I'm like, I wish I would have done better, or whatever it might be. It's what it is. That's who we
yeah.
were, what we were doing.
It's like each song is a still of the life, something like that. Yeah,
If you're just getting into the Sacred Reich and you've listened to some of the newer stuff, but I would say, hit American Way and
okay,
give that a feel, and then you can go forward or back from there.
yeah,
But I think that's when we started to identify ourselves as who
yeah,
we were, what do we sound like, what do we have to say,
yeah.
and it was a nice mix of aggressive kids going crazy, but a little bit more focused and contained.
Okay. So now I want to go a little bit deep in your personal influences, because of course as guitarists, guitarists or sometimes I have different influences from drummer and so on. So speaking about your personal first musical influences, then we go, if you have, I don't know, some guitarists that influence your way of playing.
Sure. I was fortunate to have a couple of guitar players in the family. A cousin Guy, my cousin, his name is Guy. He's like a year and a half older than me. And then I have Uncle Jeff and then an uncle-in-law Jeff, both Jeffs. They play guitar. So we were listening to, growing up, 70s. I'm 53 now, born in 68. 10 in 78, so 12 in 1980. So it was probably the early 80s when I started to handle the guitar and look at it differently. Like, oh, what's going on in that song? What's my part? It's not just a song. It's a bunch of people together. And it was like Leonard Skinner, CCR. My first guitar was an acoustic. I was playing open chords, and then I think AC/DC was the first time I thought to myself, I'm going to need an electric guitar. There's a limit to what I can do with the acoustic guitar. I'm going to need an electric guitar.
Yes, of course.
I got my mom to get me an electric guitar and an acoustic brand amp, which also had no distortion. So I think it was made for acoustic guitars. So that sent me to the store for my first stomp box foot pedal, a distortion box, which was a Rat. And then I had a big, dirty, squealy, fuzzy sound and started learning some AC/DC songs. And then, like a miracle, at the perfect time when my skill level was just getting where I could get my head around it, Blizzard of Oz came out, the 83, 84. And my cousin Guy, who was a little bit ahead of me, has a great ear for learning things. So he was doing the hard work of finding this stuff. And then I was watching his fingers and stealing it, which was beautiful for me because that's never been my skill. I'm horrible. I have no patience. Yeah. I learned them wrong and say close enough, and then I move on. And I was doing better by him learning for us, and then I could catch up with him pretty quick on the skill. I just couldn't figure it out. His ear is so good. He listens to something, he knows what's going on. So Randy Rhoads was amazing, and it touched me, like coming from my first guitar being an acoustic and picking out the notes, and then hearing the classical work he did, like in D and Revelation, Mother Earth. It just really spoke to me where I was on my journey. I hated abandoning the acoustic. I loved the big sound of clean open chords and the mood that it can create, but I then scratch into electric. And he was doing that. And at that point, I found myself like going, wow, this is what I want to do. I want to mix acoustic with electric, and I want to be a guitar player in a band, and I want to do records, and I want to go on. It really focused me that this is what I want to do, and that was Randy.
Yeah.
It was like a hobby. Family members played. We learned Leonard Skinner songs, and no one ever went on tour or did records. But it changed for me after Blizzard of Oz.
That's amazing.
I just became focused and more disciplined, and I had a desire that just really kept me playing.
Yeah, and before ending, it's just a question that it's a silly question, but of course it's always funny to know about the taste of the musician. If you are, you can say you are an organizer of festival. Okay, so you have to choose a country where settle the festival, and the bills, the lineup. So just you can choose 3 band, 4 band, 5 band, doesn't matter. Just if you have the chance to make your own personal festival, you can choose even a band still going on or bands from the past. It's free. You can say in a imaginary festival.
Wow.
It's always stuff.
So I can put 3 bands on a bill that I would love to see. That's
okay. Yeah. You can choose. You can choose.
Whew, that's tough.
Yeah, I know, everyone. It's always the same.
My first concert in 1978 was Black Sabbath with Van Halen opening, and my mother brought me. And I would have loved to have been able to see that concert with today's eyes. So I think I got Black Sabbath from the 70s.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
I would love to see them live. And I've been really fortunate to see a lot of new bands.
Yeah.
So I'm not so curious about them. One that I haven't seen that I think would be amazing was Muse.
Muse. Okay. So
yeah. So there's a weird mix.
Yeah, but the two can go because they're not similar, but we can say the period and the genre. But the Muse is more alternative. So we can say the journey through from the past to the nowadays.
Yes, like Led Zeppelin was, hard rock. And then, Black Sabbath, arguably the birth of metal.
Yeah,
and then Muse is the culmination of just decades of music. They're so musical and capable and thoughtful with their melodies and the emotion that comes out.
Yeah.
Big fan. Yeah. Like so many people.
Yeah, of course. So just before ending the interview, if you want just to say just about the future project that you have right now settled, and a message to Sacred Reich fans, or just everyone is looking to these interviews when we'll be on air. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for your interest in talking with me. I enjoyed talking.
It's a pleasure. And
to the Sacred Reich fans, I just want to thank you for being patient. Thank you for the support. This has been tough on everybody going through the pandemic. We keep postponing tours, trying to keep everybody safe and make sure that we can go out and have a good time. So, I hope everyone will do their part to be safe, be smart, and love each other, help each other out. Let's find more to agree on and stop fighting about everything. It's been a really polarizing time between politics and anti-vaxxers and vaxxers. And I just want to appeal to everyone to play nice. Remember that we're in this together. and let's see what we can do to get back to something that looks like normal. We have a lot of touring plans. U.S. tour with Sepultura beginning March and April 2022. Then we have festival tours in Europe through the summer, and then we're looking to end the year with a winter tour in Europe with Sepultura, Crowbar, and ourselves. So we're super excited about 2022. Here in America, we're coming up on Thanksgiving tomorrow, and it's a time where we kind of reflect and we be thankful. So I've been doing a lot of that.
Happy Thanksgiving then.
Yes. So you know, thankful to everyone who's taken the time to listen to this and create opportunities for us to be musical. And I hope to see everybody on the road real soon.
So thank you so much, Wiley, and I hope to see you in some festival in next summer in Europe then.
Yes, I love to see you. Maybe. Oh, and we talked. My family was from Sicily. My mother told me Palermo.
Palermo, yeah, this is my city. When we are right now, we are from Palermo right now. I mean, we are in Palermo. Yes, we live here. Yeah.
So I have family in Palermo, and
really, that's cool.
We don't stay in touch because there were several generations apart. But the maiden name was Oliva. And my mother told me that I still have family in Palermo. It's just that we're fifth cousins, and
yes.
So we're
it's like,
not.
It's cool because sometimes you find out that you have relatives just around the globe, around the world. Yeah, I have the same in LA. So completely,
My grandmother, Vera Oliva, she's not with us any longer, but a fun memory. She was nearby, and someone was asking me what nationality. I go, I'm kind of a mix of everything. I go, I have some Italian in me. And from across the room, she goes, hey. And I look at her, I'm like, what? And she goes, you're not Italian, you're Sicilian.
That's true.
Like, I don't know. So my grandma's crazy. I'm like,
we speak a lot with the hands, with the gesture.
She's, you're not Italian, you're Sicilian.
Yeah, we should be proud of that. From Sicily.
So proud to share that with you. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks again. It was really a pleasure. And if we will catch up in some festival, we'll take you something from Palermo. Some food, some dessert. Some dessert. A lot of dessert. Thank you so much, Wiley. See you soon then.
Have a great day.
You too. Okay. Bye.